Hello. So I just finished my first week of The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. Shout out to doechii for the inspiration / recommendation. I've also seen a couple other people start this, but that could just be the algorithm doing its thing and listening in on all of my thoughts, feelings, emotions, and conversation. I just finished my first week. I have thoughts. I thought it would be a good way to keep myself accountable is by doing like a little kind of video at the end of each week. To begin, I'll just kind of go over a little bit about what this entails and what the goal of this book is before I get into kind of my personal experience through this past week and what the assignments and shit like that were. The Artist's Way. So essentially, I would say like the summation of what this book is intending to do, like what its goal for the reader. And like, honestly, no. The goal of the reader / student, let's say that, is one, overcome any what she calls creative blocks or like creative monsters who have instilled either insecurities or negative thoughts or perhaps shame involved in your creative mind, your creative being. Whether it was your parents, friends, other family members, teachers, mentor, whatever, it doesn't matter. Anything that in the past has made you feel like it's not worth doing, you're not good enough to do it, you shouldn't even try, it's stupid, maybe you felt humiliated or embarrassed by something, or maybe it could be simply that they just didn't sound like they were interested in what you had to share or say. So any of those types of things, this book is kind of aiming for you to unlearn those and overcome those blockages so that you can harness, your true creativity and who you are as an artist. And I think a really good thing to preface with this is that anyone can be an artist. Everyone is inherently creative. There is no person who is not creative and who cannot be an artist in their own way. So whether you're a plumber, a lawyer, whatever it might be, dog sitter, it doesn't matter. You are inherently creative and you have a creative mind. And you are worth nourishing that creativity that you have within yourself, whatever it might be, which I totally agree with. And I tell everybody in my life this, that it doesn't matter. Like, you are creative in some aspect, shape, or form. You are doing a disservice to yourself by saying that you aren't creative. And so I really appreciate how much she hones in on that and makes it clear that this is for anybody. Like, you don't need to be a singer. You don't have to be a guitarist. You don't have to be a painter. This is literally for anybody who wants to finally break free and feel like they are safe. They are worthy of indulging in their creative ways, their creative passion. So she goes a lot. She kind of explains examples of this, like, what it might have been. And I've bookmarked or tabbed a couple of things that I kind of really liked that she spoke on. I'm not going to read all of it out loud or anything like that. What I did like is that she kind of explained, like what I was saying before, how everyone is creative and everyone is inherently a creative. And she does kind of relate this to like a spirituality in a way, where it's like, your spirit in and of itself is creative and is a creator. It's not somebody giving that to you. You already have it. And she does refer to a higher power or like a God in this book as the one who kind of has given you that ability within yourself. But what I liked is that, you can replace that with anyone. Like, it doesn't have to be God. It doesn't have to be higher power. It could be whatever you want it to be. The universe, your mind, a soul. It could be fucking Beyonce, whatever has breathed into you this aspect of your creative being is what you can refer to it as. But she does specifically use God. That is something to be mindful of if you are going to be using this book. I myself do not consider myself as a Christian anymore, and nor do I really believe in a God or anything like that. But I don't find that to deter me from using this, just for other people who might feel that way. But what I liked is that she kind of goes into that, she says that creativity is our true nature. Your creativity is like your blood. Just as blood is a fact of your physical body and nothing you invented, creativity is a fact of your spiritual body and nothing you must invent. So again, it's the idea that it's inherently within you. You don't have to discover it. You don't have to invent, it's just there, and you harness it and you do what it is that you feel led to do creatively. And then she says, again, no matter what your age or your life path, whether making art is your career or your hobby or your dream, it is not too late or too egotistical or too selfish or too silly to work on your creativity. And again, like, you know, you can ask my friends, like, I'm always like, anyone can do that shit. Like, I don't care. I don't give a fuck if like all you were good at when you were young was math or science. Like, that doesn't mean that you aren't creative and you cannot be creative. You know, she goes into a lot of things, you know, of what really that means for you. And she kind of has like these cool kind of stories and stuff throughout her own life and other people that she's kind of talked to about this, and, you know, how it relates to them and how this has kind of helped open up their mind a little bit to accepting that they are creative, that they are an artist. And then she also goes on to say that, you know, we are the creators. That is literally who we are. We are here to create. And I mean, like, again, that could be anything. And then she uses this term called synchronicity, where she defines it as we change and the universe furthers and expands that change. So again, we go into this kind of, it's just all around us, just like waiting for us to use it and to harness it. And she uses this really cool, which if you've watched doechii's video, she actually quoted this too, but she uses this, I almost want to say like a life motto: leap and the net will appear. So if you reach out, it is there and it's ready to catch you. You know, there's no going too far into the deep end. There's no losing your way. Like it's right there and it's ready for you to grasp it and to be engulfed in your creative nature, and who you are as a creator. So, and then she also goes into like, you know, but because of this, you know, a lot of the times we make up excuses, or we naturally try to resist what it is that we most are passionate about, or what we want most in life. You know, we think of things as to why we don't deserve to do it, or as to why we shouldn't do it. And she goes through some of them, which I highlighted a few that I thought were relatable, but I'll read all of them. She has: stop telling yourself it's too late. Stop waiting until you make enough money to do something you really love. Stop telling yourself it's just my ego whenever you yearn for a more creative life. Stop telling yourself that dreams don't matter, that they are only dreams, and that you should be more sensible. Stop fearing that your family and friends would think you crazy. And then stop telling yourself that creativity is a luxury and that you should be grateful for what you've got. So again, focusing on it's meant for anybody and everybody. It's never too late. You can find a way to do it. And I think that's important to remind yourself. There's so many things. Oh, well, like I'm tired. So anyway, so that's kind of the explanation of what this book is really for and what its goal aims to be for you. And so diving into that, you know, she gives you these basic principles, these basic tools that you're going to be using, whether it be weekly, daily, or what have you, to really focus on your creative being and try and overcome, you know, all these creative blockages, these creative monsters, like she says, that have stopped you from indulging, stopped you from maybe practicing more, stopped you from doing this, that, and the third, whatever it might be. And she explained what those are and kind of the goal of those as well, what kind of obstacles you may run into while you're doing these tasks and stuff like that. And, you know, a lot of it in summation is, you know, getting past negative self-talk and getting past shaming yourself for stuff. One thing she said, it's okay to try and be bad at something. And again, you know, we go back into of how, you know, we make so many excuses for ourselves as well. Like, you know, you're too tired. Well, it doesn't matter. Or like, oh, well, I'm just not in the mood. And unfortunately, you might not always be in the mood, but you still have to do that shit. If anything, you just have to do it for you and to feed your creative self. You know, think about comes to mental well-being and boundaries, how they say, like, you know, how can you pour into others if your cup is already empty? And you relate that also to your creative self. If you're not feeding your creativity and indulging in that, then, you know, it's going to find other ways in your life where you're lacking, or you're feeling like you're not accomplished, or maybe you're feeling unfulfilled. It's important to nourish that part of yourself so that it then can pour out into other aspects of your life. Now, she says it really well. Your artist is a child and it needs to be fed. So, you know, if you're a mom, you know, you don't have a choice. You have to feed your child. Otherwise that bitch is gonna die. Okay? It don't matter if you're mad, if you're tired, if you're on your period. It doesn't matter if you know, had a family member who passed away. You still have to feed your children. You know, that it's just, you have to do it. There is no other option. As morbid as that sounds, that's what it's like with your, you know, your creative self. You have to do it for yourself. You owe it to yourself to do that, you know, regardless of what's going on. Of course, you know, I mean, as you can probably guess, you know, she talks about how our perfectionism holds us back. You know, we criticize ourselves way more than anyone else. Like, we nitpick, we hear things, we see things that other people don't notice or frankly don't give a fuck about like we do. And so again, that's just other obstacles that you have to bypass and get through. Like I was saying with like the pouring into yourself, she calls the process of feeding your creativity and nourishing that part of yourself as filling the well. She says filling the well involves the active pursuit of images to refresh our artistic reservoirs. Art is born in attention. Don't look at it as a chore or a duty. Just look at it as magic, as delight, as fun. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be good. You could make like a shitty song of gibberish, and as long as you're having fun and indulging, that's all that really matters at the end of the stop focusing so much on a perfect product or a perfect this, or if other people are gonna like it, because that's not really what matters. What matters the most is that it made you happy, that you felt free in doing it, and that you like what you've done. In my opinion, that shows through anyways. One thing I will touch on before I get to like the tasks and everything like that, in my experience, she was definitely calling me the fuck out here. Let me see if I can find it once I thought I bookmarked it. One moment. It's raw air. I know it's raw air. Bruh, I was just looking at that shit too. And now I can't find it. I tell you what now. Found it, I'm just kidding. One of the things she also talks about is audacity. And I was definitely called the fuck out. # triggered. I'm just gonna read this verbatim because if you're a musician or a singer or maybe a poet, I think this will resonate with you. So she says, as blocked creatives, we often sit on the sidelines critiquing those in the game. He's not so talented, we may say, of a currently hot artist. And we may be right about that. All too often, it is audacity, not talent, that moves an artist to center stage. As blocked creatives, we tend to regard these bogus spotlight grabbers with animosity. And I'm like, I'll be goddamn, because I do that shit every fucking day. Sorry, continue. We may be able to defer to true genius, but if it's merely a genius for self-promotion we're witnessing, our resentment runs high. Don't get me started. This is not just jealousy. It is a stalling technique that reinforces our staying stuck. We make speeches to ourselves and other willing victims. I could do that better if only ... You could do it better if only you would let yourself do it. And I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I definitely was called the fuck out with that paragraph, because I think I specifically in the past have done a lot of growing now. I did harbor resentment or bitterness in seeing other people that I was like, I know I'm better. Like, I know I'm more talented. Like, I can do this better. Like, I know I could out-sing them. Like if I was on The Voice when they do the singing, the sing-offs. I know. So it's like, why do they get so much engagement? Why do they get so many views? Like, of course, like, there's also the comparison there. And it's like, well, what are they doing that I'm not doing? And that's having the audacity to put themselves out there, to share their creative shit, to share their music, to post this, to make this content, to do that, to perform here without giving a fuck. They just go out, and whether they're faking it till they make it doesn't fucking matter. They have the audacity to put themselves out there and do what the fuck needs to be done to get noticed. Meanwhile, I'm sitting on my fucking couch, twiddling my fucking thumb, being a bitter bitch over that shit, when I could do it better if only I would let myself. That was definitely a slap in the face for me. And there's a lot of reasons I could get into as to why I get trapped in that type of mindset. But yeah, I was like, well, fuck you, Julia, because first of all, you don't know me. Okay, you don't know who I am. So for you to have the audacity to say that. Anyways, that leads me to the tasks and what this week entailed as far as what Julia wanted us to do. Two things. We have morning pages, which is basically every single morning you are just going to do stream of consciousness, 3 pages of just babble. It doesn't matter what it is. You could write the same sentence over and over again if you wanted to. You're just writing pages and pages of shit. And I was pretty consistent. I will say I did miss 2 days. One, I couldn't find a fucking pen. So, and then I just got sidetracked, and by the time I remembered to do it, it was like fucking 3 p.m., and I was like, well, this shit's stupid. And then today, it's Mother's Day today. Again, I couldn't find a fucking pen, which I had thought I brought my pen with me, because I was traveling this weekend, I wasn't at home. And I couldn't find that shit, and then, like, there was fucking people over, and I was just like, whatever, I was over it. I was like, I don't even give a fuck anymore. So, I did not do the morning pages today or yesterday. But I will say, like, you know, I'm not a morning person, so sometimes it was a little bit of a struggle, but I kind of just treated them as diary entries, to be quite honest, which I think in the long run was helpful. You know, I mean, it's just nice to fucking complain, and I don't necessarily like to do that all the time anyways. So that's what you're supposed to do every day. And for the next 8 weeks, I don't know that I mentioned that this was an 8-week program at the beginning. But for the next 8 weeks, you do that every single fucking day. And then weekly, you go on an artist date. And so this is basically anything that kind of indulges your artistic side. And it's meant to be just a solo, dolo date. So, you know, art museum, you could get like a paint kit and do that at home. You know, go to an open mic, whatever it may be. And you do that, and it's just supposed to be a fun experience that, you know, just nourishes your creative self. And then she had some other tasks. I'm just gonna briefly say what they are. Time travel. List 3 old enemies of your creative self-worth. Be as specific as possible. She calls them, again, historic monsters. And these are the people who have instilled your core negative beliefs. She, at first, just lists 3 who, like, you know, maybe are like the top 3 that you could think of that were the worst. But ideally, you know, as you keep engaging in this book and the tasks, you might remember more and more. And so you are encouraged to write those down. And she says, like, you know, if you don't do this, you don't acknowledge these things and grieve them, they're basically creative scar tissue and, you know, will continue to block your growth as a creative. Then another time travel task, which is select and write out at least 1 horror story from your Monster Hall of Fame. Now this, you don't have to necessarily be specific or write a huge blurb or whatever, but just one memory that you really have that's so engraved in your mind, you know, that's really, really traumatized you creatively. It could even be just as simple as like the way that someone looked at you when you maybe read a poem to them or something, or maybe it's something even more fantastical. Maybe like, you know, you performed on stage and something happened and you were humiliated. Write that out and put that down. She then had another one where it's write a letter to your editor in defense, mail it to yourself. The way I took this was like, whoever was mean to me in the past or like pissed me off and made me feel bad about my creative self, is basically like you write a letter to them being like, fuck you. I actually thought mine was kind of funny, so I might share it. Another time travel, list 3 old champions of your creative self-worth. So basically the exact opposite. So these are people that really encouraged you, who wanted you to thrive, who influenced you, who were campaigning for you. They wanted to see you successful. Like they believed in you, you know, those type of people. And she does encourage you, like if you can specifically remember maybe what one of them said to you, write it on a sticky note or something like that, and you can put it somewhere to remind yourself as almost like an affirmation. And then one other time travel is select one of the champions and write them a letter. You can mail it to them or mail it to yourself. Then she has imaginary lives. You choose 5 other lives that you could possibly live. And she's like, you know, a football player, a belly dancer, whatever. Write out 5 of those and what you would do if you were living those people's lives. And she says, if you can, maybe even indulge in one of them. Another task that she has is to go for an artist walk. So just a 20-minute walk. I will say I did not fucking do this shit. Look, okay, bitches are struggling. Okay. The final one was affirmations and blurts. So basically what she wants you to do is list like blurts, which is negative self-talk, and then you list affirmations that combat that. Now, the more you can do, the better, but she says to do at least 2 every single day with your morning pages, basically. So those are the tasks. I basically did most all of them besides, like I said, the 20-minute walk. I mean, like I go to the gym about 5 days a week most of the time. Unfortunately, I only did 5 out of 7 of the morning pages. I do plan on doing all 7 this week. So artist day was kind of like a flop, honestly. I really wanted to go to an open mic and just be like a bystander and watch. Tuesday was the day I was gonna go, but I was like, I really wanted to go to the gym that day, so I ended up going to the gym. By the time I like showered and I was ready, like it was too fucking late. I was like, whatever. And then like Wednesday, I was like, okay, well maybe I could find an open mic then. But then a bunch of them got canceled because it was like shitty fucking weather outside. And then Thursday, I was like, okay, let's go Thursday. But the only one I could find was like 50-minute drive from my house. And I'm like, bitch, no, I'm sorry. I get off of work at 5. I'm not doing that. So I ended up just going to this local place that I like a lot, that had a live band. To me, it was like a bust. I just wanted to find something to do. That was kind of like my compromise. Was not honestly in that great of a mood. I don't feel like I necessarily felt inspired or anything by like the band was good or whatever, but it just wasn't what I originally wanted to do. So I just think I was kind of not feeling that positive when I was in that space. But I mean, whatever, I fucking did. So I do want to share some of what I wrote for some of the tasks. First affirmation task was write the same affirmation 10 times and then write the negative thoughts that come to your mind while you're writing it. So I wrote, I am a one-of-a-kind and gifted vocalist. Some of the blurts were, you'd be embarrassed if you were in a real studio setting. You always mess up when you perform live. It's too late to make a name for yourself. No one ever likes anything you do. You're actually terrible and everyone is lying to you. And my last one was, are you sure about that? So that's that. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you feel the way I feel. And then 3 creative monsters. I'm not gonna specifically name their names. I know so many people who relate to this. Being a musician, being a singer, whatever it is, like, that's not gonna pay the bills. It's not a realistic career. It's a one in a lifetime chance that you make a career off of that. So it's not worth investing in. Like, you need to find a practical and a logical career path to choose. Another one was, I've always been given so much shit about my voice. Either I'm too quiet, I'm too loud, I'm mumbling, I'm monotone, I sound like a baby, I sound like a man, or some people I've literally been told that I sound like a lesbian, whatever the fuck that means. At first I was like, well, is this really like a creative block when it's more so talking about my speaking voice? But then I thought deeper and I'm like, yes, it is, because when you tell me just the way that I naturally speak is like this, that, and the third, it leads me to believe that that carries on to my singing voice and the way I sing and how I sound, and that it's ugly or it's not this or it's not that, you know? So I guess that was my own creative block. So I just had this specific memory of a friend's parents really disliked me because they thought I was a bad influence. The way I dressed, you know, I liked emo and screamo bands and shit like that. And I grew up as an evangelical Christian, so that shit was like demonic and stuff. They didn't like that about me. They didn't like the way I spoke. And I specifically remember my friend saying that they didn't like how I talked nor how my voice sounded because it made them think that I was a lesbian. With anyone who grew up in the church, the misogyny and the homophobia is, you know, tenfold. So being told that as like a child was really upsetting to me, because it's like, also like, you know, I'm like 9 years old. My sexuality is not something that I've even really decided for myself yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm still discovering so much about myself, and for grown ass fucking adults who are my friends' parents to like say this shit about me, gossiping about me behind my back, I mean, it really hurt my feelings and it made me feel insecure. And I got that so much throughout my life, specifically that I sound like a man or I sound like a boy, or people think I'm a lesbian because I have a deep voice. To me, what that meant is that my voice is ugly, my voice is not pretty, it's not feminine sounding, and therefore if I'm singing, I'm gonna sound like a man, I'm gonna sound ugly. I don't have a Disney princess voice, it's not pretty. People don't want to listen to that shit. So that was really something that made me very insecure. And then another one was, I shared a song with somebody, like a cover I did of Best Part by her and Daniel Caesar. And basically, I mean, they basically told me it just wasn't that good. It doesn't fit your voice. Like, when you sing high, like, it's too this and that. It's not smooth sounding. It's too raspy. And I remember that really hurt my feelings, because the only reason I recorded that cover was because I liked this person. And, you know, it was kind of like me sharing that with them and being like, oh, well, like, this song made me think about you, so I did it. And they were like, well, the song actually sucks and I don't like it. That definitely hurt my feelings, and I think instilled that belief that, like, I just have an ugly fucking voice and I should just stop. And then my horror story, I actually have a couple of these. This shit, I mean, like, I will remember this. I even did a little 3-year-old drawing. I will remember this until like my deathbed, probably. If I didn't already have to say this, I was extremely shy, crippling anxiety, and I mean, like, sharing my singing and performing in front of people, forget about it. Okay, that was not fucking happening, y'all. I would rather have locked myself in a fucking isolation chamber than done that shit. But here I was in 10th grade, auditioning for the talent show, and so that everyone can laugh at me, I did Hey Soul Sister by Train. Okay, look. To be cringe is to be free. Okay, as an adult, I understand that song is very wild, and I now know what it was actually about. Look, I take accountability for what I did, okay? Anyway, that was the song I was going to audition for. My friend at the time, they had no issues or qualms with performing in front of people. They're not shaking in their boots. They're not sweating bricks or whatever. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Like, they can do that shit and it's fine. Even if they messed up, they would just be able to keep going and just play it off. Like, you know, but for me, if I make a mistake or something, like, I'm running for the fucking hills, y'all, okay? And I remember I was irritated because my friends be like, oh, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine. And, like, I already had, like, this preconceived notion of, no, like, it's not fine. I'm gonna fuck this up. But anyways, so I just remember I go in there, there's 3 judges, there's 2 dudes, and then there was a girl. It's just silence in this fucking empty ass classroom. Just me and my guitar against the world. At first, I remember being extremely nervous. I think people who have stage fright can attest that you get to this point of where you're so nervous that it's like you're already out of breath without even fucking doing anything. trying to just catch your breath when you're just like fucking standing there not doing shit. So I'm already freaking out, right? And you know, you have to like introduce the song we were doing. Started playing. It actually was going okay. I mean, I don't think I sounded great because I was so fucking nervous. I mean, I'm sure I was like, ugh. And I remember after I did the first verse and the chorus, I was playing, you know, I was playing the chords. I was finger picking, and I just remember like I can't remember the lyrics anymore. Like it was like everything just like was gone. I was like, I can't remember what this next verse is, and then I'm freaking out because I'm like, well, I can't remember. Like I can't just sing the chorus again because I'm like, I'm not gonna remember. And like I was like, well, maybe I could, but I can't remember what the bridge is. So I'm freaking. So I just stopped. Oh my god. I stopped playing and I was just in dead silence. From that moment, I just knew. I was like, I'm not being accepted. I already knew. I wanted to cry so badly then and there, but I was like, I have to hold it together. Like I can't embarrass like I'm already humiliated. I can't make it worse by crying in front of these fucking people that I don't know. And I remember they just kind of looked at me and they were like a little confused at first. And they're like, you know, keep playing, you know, like it's okay. You can keep going, finish the song. And I don't know if I'm making this up or not because of how traumatizing this fucking was for me, but I don't actually remember if I finished the song or not. I have a memory that I finished it, like I eventually remembered the lyrics, but I don't actually know if that happened. What I do remember is walking out of that classroom, because what they did is everyone auditioned and then they would come out and they would announce who actually made it. So like you didn't get a yes or no like right afterwards. I remember walking out, immediately breaking down into tears. I'm like snot crying, y'all. You know what I'm saying? And my friend's like, oh, it's fine. Like I'm sure it went fine. I'm like, you don't fucking know what you're talking about. Shut the fuck up. You know, my mom was kind of just trying to comfort me as best as she could. Long story short, I didn't make it into the talent show, and my friend did make it into, which I knew was gonna happen. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I was jealous because I really, really wanted that, and I didn't get it. It was like I was happy for her, but at the same time, I was like, fuck you. And I just, man, it was a rough day. I just remember like driving home in silence, just crying in the backseat of the car. That to me was just so fucking embarrassing, and I was so disappointed in myself because I had practiced and practiced. If I was just at home on my bed, I could play that song back and forth with no problem, but I just didn't understand why that happened. Like I just couldn't understand like why I fucked up so hard, you know, and like I really, really, really like was tearing myself down over that. Again, it just reiterated that like I shouldn't be doing this. If I try to do this again, I'm just gonna fuck up again. I'm just gonna embarrass myself again, you know. People are gonna look at me like I'm fucking stupid. That was my horror story. My champions, to get on a more positive note, was Mr. Comer. He was my very first music teacher. I started playing guitar when I was 9 years old, and he was my music teacher. He went to this church that I went to. It's a little bittersweet for me because I did have a falling out with him as an adult. But he was such a great teacher. He was so encouraging. He made me feel like I was actually good at what I was doing. He wanted so badly for me to break out of my shell. He never judged me. He didn't discourage me. If I made a mistake in guitar, I never felt ashamed or made to feel stupid because of that. Like when I shared with him that I like singing a lot, he always wanted me to sing and play. And I remember like a couple times crying because I was too afraid to do it. He'd always just be like you can sing, you can play at the same time, like that's a skill, like work on it, get better at it. Don't be afraid to share that with people. To this day, like I really appreciate that. I think that was really special because I know a lot of children don't have an influence like that in their lives, especially when it comes to music and the arts. My second one is my grandma. She is my biggest fan. I know that if she was still alive, that she would definitely be my top streamer. She would be one of those people who would just put it on repeat all fucking day long. That's the kind of person she would be. When I used to post my YouTube guitar cover, she was always first person to comment on it, to like it. She'd always say that my voice was beautiful, and that meant a lot to me. So it's nice when like people are like, oh, like yeah, you're talented and this, that. Being actually told, you sound beautiful and this, that, and the third, it was a special thing. So I really appreciated that. Hold on, because I'm about to cry. This is another creative block, I guess, but it does make me regret giving up on music for so long when I was younger. But you know, we live and we learn, y'all. You know, you can't go back. You just keep going forward. So it is what it is. Here I am. Third, my creative writing teacher from college. She really advocated for me, and she really, really loved my writing, and so it just felt good to feel like I was good at something. And she always wanted me to read my shit out loud for the class and stuff because she liked it a lot. Eventually, like, I couldn't pay my student loans back, so they were threatening to kick me out. She really tried hard to have them make an exception. Like, she wrote a letter to the school and everything. I mean, unfortunately, it didn't do shit, but I mean, I really appreciate that she stuck up for me and advocated for me. I really am thankful for her, and I hope she's doing well. I would love to take her class again. Before I end this, I thought I would read the letter I wrote to the editor. Again, this is my interpretation. I honestly don't know what she meant by the editor, because I was like, is there an editor of this book that I'm just like missing on? I wrote this letter to The Voice because I auditioned for those fuckers and they denied me, and they can suck my fat fucking nutsack. And so this is what I said. Oh my god, that's actually the first I forgot. To the editor, The Voice can suck my fat fucking nutsack. Those motherfuckers wouldn't know talent if it slapped them in the face 100 times in a row. Not only that, the judges they put on that show aren't even that fucking good. Like, no offense to Katy Perry, in parentheses, actually full offense because she supports rapists, or Adam Levine, but you bitches are mediocre at best. No one remembers your songs because of the vocal performances, I'll tell you that right now. Also, what is your obsession with country artists? ? Have we not heard enough redneck yeehaws screaming into the mic off key? Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen. I don't want to hear another Luke Bryan wannabe do a shitty cover of Tennessee Whiskey. Enough already. Who are you to tell me that you're not what we're looking for right now? What the fuck does that even mean anyway? Can the producers and directors even sing? Do they play instruments? Don't piss me off. I'm convinced y'all don't want people like me because everyone would be looking stupid on stage were I performing. Also, it has been said that my beauty can be too overwhelming at times, and that could be a safety hazard for all involved. Anyways, fuck you and fuck your show. That's why y'all can't produce any successful acts, ignoring the fact that y'all exploit the winners and ruin their careers before they even start. Disrespectfully, Melody.